A very good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to this 106th episode of the Together for Education webinar series brought to you by Notebook. More than a year ago, in April 2020, when the pandemic had just started, we at Notebook decided to set up a series of webinars. The objective was twofold. One, to help the educator community connect with each other on a platform where they can share their thoughts and ideas and listen to thought leaders and eminent educators about a host of topics connected to school education. The second was that learning was moving online, and educators had to quickly adopt a number of digital learning tools, Zoom being one of them. Therefore, we said this would give our educators a more hands on experience of this platform. We had honestly expected it to last maybe a few months. Well, the pandemic rolled on, and now, more than a year later, it is my privilege to welcome you to the 106th episode. Today, having connected with more than 80,000 educators, Together for Education is the largest thought sharing platform for school education anywhere on the planet. We have discussed a myriad range of topics, right from holistic development, NEP, sports and games, the house system, even mental health. About a month ago, we picked up the topic of social learning, and we had this invigorating discussion fueled by the brilliant panel and our speakers that we had. Today, we take it a step further. Today, we are going to talk about social emotional learning. Well, to tell you more about it, it is now my privilege to introduce to you our first speaker of the day. Our first speaker today is Mr. Philip Burrett. Mr. Burrett retired as the Deputy Headmaster from the illustrious Doon School in Dehradun after 44 years of serving in education across various institutions. Mr. Burrett served the Doon School as Housemaster, Head of Department, Dean of Activities, Dean of Student Welfare, Deputy Headmaster, Second Master, and Acting Headmaster with great distinction. Mr. Burrett also carried out a visioning exercise for the Doon School in the year 2011 through an in-depth study of a number of British public schools and various schools in the US. He qualified as a leadership trainer at Wellington College, UK in the year 2000. He is also an athlete, an adventurer, and a naturalist, and we at Notebook are proud to have him as our senior advisor. Sir, privileged to have you with us. Over to you.
Thank you very much, Abayu, for that introduction. And a very good evening to you, Achin, and everyone at the Notebook office. Also, a very good evening to our esteemed panelists, who I hold in great awe because they're experts on this subject, and all those good people that have tuned in today. So the topic is interesting. They say that it takes an entire village to raise a child. And, as housemaster of my last school, I think I saw the whole gamut of the results of social and emotional suffering. There was drug abuse, there was violence, there was bullying, there was kleptomaniacs, we had ADHD, we had the autism spectrum, we had neurotic lying. We even had a strange case of where a boy used to faint. Every time he was given a punishment, he fainted. And it took us time to realize that this was the flight, fight, faint, and freeze situation. And when we told him that if he was going to faint once again, we would have to, ask him to leave school, his fainting stopped. And there was sexual issues, there was suicidal behavior. And all this when we had 75 staff members living on the campus with the boys, and we had 2 resident counselors. How much more can a school ask for? And yet we had so many problems. And of course, there were times when we couldn't handle the issue and we had to ask the children to go to seek more professional help. In my experience, as I got older in the job, I ceased to be a teacher of the subject that I came to teach. And I moved much more into counseling and mentorship. I saw my role much more as a counselor and mentor. Recently, I was watching a film featuring the Hungarian psychiatrist Gabor Mate, who has done a lot of work on childhood trauma. And he talks about how children carry trauma from childhood. And he talks about how we interiorize anger and fear, and we don't express this, and how it makes us ill and how it makes us addicts. All our addictions are because of hidden trauma. And the opposite of addiction is not sobriety. It is connection. We disconnect with ourselves. So people who are addicted are disconnected with themselves. And our job as teachers, mentors, elders have to bring about this reconnection with the human. And it's not that if social and emotional issues are something that has happened in the last 10 years, we've always had it. However, today we have a name for every imaginable subgroup of emotional issue. We have doctors and psychiatrists coming out of our ears. And I have to say, sadly, that children today are over-medicated. There's medication for ADHD, there's medication for anxiety, there's a medication for stress. When in our days, we just had to go through it because we had mentors, we had elders, we had guides, we had teachers who took the time, we had parents who spent time with us. Today, there's a loss of this part of the growing up. Kids are left entirely alone. So in bygone days, we had tribes, we had mentors, elders, role models, and we grew with the wisdom of these people around us. We heard their stories. We heard stories of our families and ancestors. We heard stories of our myths of our family by looking at old photographs. We were earthed because we played in sand and mud. We gazed at the moon at night. There was no television, no distraction. And again, as I say, we listened and were mentored by our elders. Now, move forward 100 years and we have nuclear families. Parents are busy. They're chasing 2 careers. Families have moved to cities. There's, from the agricultural background, we have fewer kids. We marry later. We have less patience. There's electronic gadgets that have moved into our lives. Children are very, very neglected. And there's junk food, there's sedentary behavior, there's ready-made toys. And that spirit of creativity and mystery and inventiveness seems to have got lost. What has taken the place is substance, alcohol, pornography, loss of connect with the elders, as I've said, and stress. Stress is the #1 killer. And what's happened today is childhood has been lost. We are suffering with a lost childhood. Now, look at the movies we saw. I remember seeing Franco Zeffirelli's Romeo and Juliet, which was adult in those days. I'm talking 1973. Today, that movie would have been You. And some of the stuff that children are watching today is, I was unimaginable. We couldn't have watched it in our days. They're exposed to certain languages in movies. It's almost like they are living on a different planet. Now, there is a lot to say of today's world as kids are exposed to data, too much data. They can fly around the world. They're exposed to virtual reality, the World Wide Web, emails, social media, Kindles, GPS, smartwatches, super malls, clothes off a peg, ability to buy anything from Amazon, the drop of a button. All this has led to this lost childhood, not to mention broken homes, single parents, entitled kids, non-resilient behavior. And these kids get ill in a different way. There's also pressure from colleges, careers, having to face their own sexual orientation, keeping up with their peers, early sexual experimentation, parental experimentation, expectations, failures, negative body images. Now, most of us suffer from some emotional or social problems, and 1 in 5 adults have either a neurosis or some depression. But they are not to the extent where they affect behavior and our work. We can keep a job, we can make friends. Similarly, most children will have tantrums, periods of depression, or be withdrawn. It is when this gets out of hand and they cannot come out to school and carry on, schoolwork in an orderly fashion. This is when the problem starts. Also, the problem is that many parents do not know when a behavior issue is normal, is a normal part of growing up, and when intervention is needed. Also, there's the stigma of mental illness that keeps many parents from admitting to themselves and to the school that their child has a problem. Today's mental health disorders are myriad. They range from emotional, which is obsessive compulsive disorders, anxieties, depression, disruptive aggression, aggressive behavior, conduct disorder, attention deficit hyperactive disorder, or developmental or speech. There's also dyslexia, dysgraphia, dyscalculia, Asperger's syndrome, innate aggression, eating disorders. And there are adolescent girls who have difficulty handling their emotion, and they go in for anorexia, bulimia, binge eating. Social issues are facing our children, being ostracized, being hated on email, being sent hate mail, having no social status, being, as I said, ostracized, name calling. All this leads to a huge problem on our children. Now, in many cases, when a child struggles at school, mental health is not the first potential cause to be investigated. It is easier to blame the child's home life, socioeconomic status, or even the child's ability, to learn academic issues, rather than recognizing that there may be something very deep going on. And instead of recognizing that, the child may need support. It has been shown that children who have an emotional issue fare poorly academically and are either withdrawn or aggressive, drop out of school, and suffer some sort of emotional distress. Kids who think differently often struggle with self-regulation and other social and emotional learning skills. They may also struggle with anxiety, low self-esteem. But targeted supports can help them fully participate in SEL. This new world we live in and that we have created for our children has led to great suffering. And for them, it is our duty, therefore, as educators, to identify and deal with a host of problems that are crippling our children. Now, in our days, we had moral science, then there's value education, there was social and emotional education, life skills, call it what you want. It came down to one thing: helping the kids to relate to themselves, their parents, and the world around them. Some schools in the UK that I've seen have a course. It is called the happiness course. And at the Doon school, we had a wellness center, which had 2 resident counselors, a doctor, a dietitian, dentist, a physiotherapist, all equally important to handle the all-round health of young people. Now, not all schools have access to these resources, but these facilities are getting more and more prevalent in schools because they feel it's very important to have them. But again, schools have to not only pay lip service to this. In schools, I have seen, when I asked, have you got a counselor? Yes, we have a counselor. Where is the counselor's office? In some pooped up little under the staircase cabin with no AC. It's one thing to say you're helping children with their social and emotional needs. It's another thing to treat the counselor as, we don't need you. So I think they have to put their money where their mouth is. Apart from teaching emotional and social health, anyway, a school seems fit, there also are things teachers can do, because social and emotional learning cannot be done as a subject. It's got to be a whole school policy where every adult on the school campus must know how to handle children and recognize an emotional issue. Circle talk is a very, very popular and a lovely way to get children to speak out. There's certain rules of circle talk. A lot of schools in the capital city have it. We have introduced it in schools in Dehradun using the acronym RULER, which stands for recognizing, understanding, labeling, expressing, and regulating emotion. Then we must encourage children to talk about their challenges. We must make clear that everyone has specific areas in which they struggle. If they talk about it, if they trust us, we can do something about it. Kids have to be guided through the process of self-reflection. Some schools use yoga, other schools use Tai Chi, but there's something that we must do where a child reflects. Today's children are so busy. You need to reflect on what's happening inside. We also need to give children opportunities to succeed, because nothing helps self-esteem as much as success. Individualized attention is important. There may be some children who need specific individual learning plans. where there's a counselor and a teacher in charge of monitoring and guiding their children. Guest talks are very important. I once heard an ex-drug addict address a school group, and it was amazing. When he told us about his life, it can really have a deep impact on the children. Also, I think at the end of the day, we should have, schools should have a resident psychiatrist or a visiting psychiatrist and a pediatrician who can help. Now, what are social and emotional skills? I think social and emotional skills are essential for connecting with each other. They help us manage our emotions, build healthy relationships, and feel empathy. And teachers, as caregivers, need to develop these skills in their children. Now, skills are age related. And so by 5, a child should be able to display most of these skills. For example, he must be aware of other people's feelings. One must be able to express their feelings. One must listen with attention. One must have pride in one's accomplishments, a positive self-image. We should know, our children should know where to get help when they need it. They should know how to show affection to familiar people, how to resolve simple conflicts, how to manage stress and anxiety, how to learn the norms of society, make appropriate decisions. Also, resist negative social pressure and learn from their strengths and weaknesses. And how can we as teachers and parents offer support and learning? One is, I think we need to be role models for our child. If we show
Bharat, are you there?
also, we must be open to talking to our children, to accepting their questions. We need to tell our children our stories. We need to listen to their stories. We must encourage children to try new things, to take risks. We must play and learn to lose and win. We've also got to sit with our children and put off those TVs and put off those cell phones, and we need to listen to them and be there as trustworthy adults to help them cope through this difficult pre-adolescent period. And with that, Subayu, I'm going to hand this over to you. Thank you so much for listening.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you for tackling this rather difficult topic with such great elan. I think this sets the stage perfectly for the discussion that is going to follow. Our next speaker today, ladies and gentlemen, is Achin Bhattacharyya. Achin is the founder and CEO at Notebook. A chartered accountant by training, Achin was a director at Deloitte prior to starting Notebook. He has worked in India and abroad in various senior capacities in GE, PwC, KPMG, and Deloitte. He is a fellow of the ICAI and a member of CP Australia and CP Ireland. He is also the recipient of the prestigious Indian Achievers Award. Achin is an avid reader and passionate traveler with keen interests in economics, history, literature, and philosophy. He is a regular speaker at various forums and chambers of commerce and also contributes articles to numerous publications regularly. He is also on the board of some of the most renowned corporates and contributes significantly to their brand strategies. Achin, over to you.
Good evening, everyone. Shubha, am I audible?
Yeah, Achin, loud and clear.
I once again welcome all of you to today's session on a topic which is really important in order to make learning more wholesome and impactful. I remember in 2019, January, I read an article in New York Times, and the article is written by David Brooks, one of the most famous columnists. He described social and emotional learning. The title of his column was Students Learn from People They Love. And he summarized some of the research that has happened over last few decades. And that has really made us appreciate the role of emotion in learning. And thus the importance of the quality of relationship between teachers and their students. Now, we used to have that top-down notion that reason was on a teeter-totter with emotion. If you wanted to be rational and think well, you have to suppress the emotion. So that was the top-down notion earlier. Brooks went on to describe various studies in neuroscience that demonstrate the beneficial interrelationship between learning and emotion. He posed a very important question. He asked that how many recent educational reform have been about relationship building. We focus on all the wrong things because we have an outmoded conception of how things really work. That was his view. But we need all these studies to demonstrate what any good teacher knows. Today in this forum, we have so many experienced, wonderful educators, with decades of experience. And I'm sure they would agree with me that the nature and quality of relationship between teachers and students really matter. So in that column, Mr. Brooks concluded by saying that the good news is that the social and emotional learning movements have steadily gained strength. And he's right. So today, if you look at books, conferences, consultants, and also a host of internet platforms dedicated to this particular subject. However, some of which unfortunately really simplifies the notion of the way the mind works. Now, I wonder, would we need to really, because today when we discuss about social emotional learning, we discuss about. So I was going through some some articles, especially with regard to higher education, more than school education, wherein a substantial period of time, at times maybe initial phase of a semester, first few weeks, are devoted to students knowing each other better. But my question is that would we really need to suspend instruction to get to know one another? Unless anything academic is seen as antithetical to human relation, and instruction is conceived in a narrow way. Now, how do we arrive at the place where writing or doing science or talking about a painting or a song is viewed as incompatible with getting to know one another? Because today, if we discuss about cognition, cognition traditionally refers to a wide and rich range of mental processes, from memory and attention to comprehending and using language, to solving a difficult problem, any subject, be it physics or choreography or even living with someone. So, but over the last few decades, cognition has been really reduced to a shadow of its former self. It is healthy to be reminded about the fuller scope of education, especially considering the fact that still now we have seen that a lot of parents, a lot of students were really obsessed with this test grade culture, that how much is the student scoring. But that's not the only important objective, as we have been discussing in this forum time and again. And today, if I just take a minute, and if we discuss about the situation today as we speak, after last 15-16 months of the pandemic, learning isn't the most important thing kids have lost during the pandemic. They have lost so much. Many of them have lost family members, connection to friends and teachers, so important for a child. His entire world revolves around it. Emotional well-being. And unfortunately, for many, financial stability at home. Now, it's perfectly sensible to worry about academic setbacks during the pandemic. But focusing on the social and emotional needs of the child, I think that's equally important, if not more, on their sense of safety, self-worth, and academic confidence. And I guess it's not controversial. And because decades of research demonstrates that stereotype threat is a real phenomenon, anchoring kids to the self-fulfilling prophecy of lower expectations. Now, today I'll tell you a simple gesture. Research has proved that a simple gesture, a very simple gesture, like greeting the kids at the door, improve academic engagement by 20%. That's a very high score, 20% improvement, just if they are made to feel welcome. The mere presence of images, female images in science textbooks moves the needle on inclusion. Now, so ensuring that all kids have at least one adult who cares about them is an effective buffer against adverse experiences that many children, unfortunately, are currently experiencing. Thus, I think today when we discuss about this topic, so one is, I think Burrett sir very beautifully explained the topic with regard to what it means and different facets of it. But now coming to the practical application part, I guess teaching young students skills such as active listening, self-awareness, and empathy can really equip them to really succeed both academically and socially. So areas like, for instance, self-awareness, emotional control, self-motivation, empathy, and relationship skills. Now, it is of course important of course, communication skills are very important. There's no denying the fact, because it's a gateway to better learning, friendship, academic success, and eventually gainful employment. Now, skills such as this developed in our formative years at school often provide the foundation for future habits later in life. Now, coming to, when we are discussing this, another topic that I'd just like to mention is about emotional intelligence, which was popularized in mid-90s by journalist Daniel Goleman's book, Emotional Intelligence, Why it can matter more than IQ, was the title of the book. Now, the books claim that emotional intelligence is more important than IQ is a source of debate among psychologists. But it does look as if, emotional intelligence could be a factor in academic achievement. So an iconic study tracked high IQ students from childhood to late adulthood and found that those who achieved notable adult career success later in life, they showed greater willpower, perseverance, and desire to excel. Meanwhile, evidence from the seminal marshmallow test, which gave children the option to have more treats if they would wait before eating them, suggested delayed gratification and self-control are important. Now, with these characteristics being linked to better school grades, earning, and job satisfaction. So today, if we practically look at it, say, for example, skills like active listening, very important. Very important. The skill of active listening is a key part of helping create genuine two-way communication. It's not about only paying attention. It involves genuinely following the dialogue and responding to others using your own body language, and then being able to demonstrate that you have understood by verbally summarizing back key messages that you have received. Also, another thing I think is really important, the vocabulary for feelings. Researcher Lisa Barrett stated that interpersonal skills can be enhanced by helping students increase their emotional vocabulary. Now, what is emotion vocabulary? Encouraging students to understand, say, for example, the difference between three words, say sad, disappointed, and upset. It really acts as a springboard to develop appropriate strategies for each. In short, every emotion in every word that you learn is a new tool for future emotional intelligence. Another thing which is really important is self-awareness. Now, how to develop self-awareness? When we have low self-awareness, we are at the risk of not realizing how we can come across to others and letting an overinflated self-image skew our behavior. So behavior gets skewed and social interactions. So a well-known study once saw that researchers really asked students how they thought they did in a test. So the students appeared for a test, results were not yet out. In the meantime, they were interviewed that how do you think you have featured in the test? And then their perceptions were compared with actual results. They found that most students overestimated their ability. And this was most likely in the case of students who had done poorly. So this is also known as Dunning-Kruger effect and is one of the most common thinking biases in education. Also, another important thing is showing empathy as being with others. As you're all aware, empathy is the ability to take the perspective of another person, being non-judgmental, recognizing their emotions, their feelings, being able to convey their perspective back to them. So it's a great way, to develop. Because today, reflecting back the other person's perspective helps to make the other person feel understood, which in turn increases their likelihood of A, collaboration, and B, support. Children generally develop empathy through observing how others show it. Say, for instance, including watching teachers and students empathize with each other. So using phrases such as I understand, I realize, I can see, can really help to show students how understanding of other perspectives can be expressed. Another important aspect is managing emotions and self-regulation. Undoubtedly very important, we would all agree. So what do self-regulation techniques look like? So there are approaches that are used by athletes which can be applied to the classroom setting. Principles remain the same. They include seeing events as an opportunity rather than a threat, and a helpful self-talk. For example, now reinforce to students that emotional management skills are not fixed but can be developed. That's a belief that has to be reinforced. So we'll all agree that emotional well-being is fundamental and foundational for academic attainment. Now, there was a test which was conducted, a meta-analysis test on 213 school-based social emotional learning programs. And they demonstrated that an 11% boost in results in standardized achievement tests. Now, instances where well-being was promoted. So how promoting well-being really affects academic outcome. Academic outcomes were impacted positively. So there were 213 cases, I told you, and 11% improvement in terms of result. So psychiatrist Bruce Perry once said that because humans are inescapably social beings, the worst catastrophes that we can experience are those that involve relational loss. So that's the importance of relation. Therefore, recovery must involve re-establishing human connections. And today, this is so important during these testing times. When many of our children, many of them are affected in different ways. So Perry suggests that the most important healing experience often occurs outside therapy. So therapy sessions are not the only place. But the most effective sessions occur inside homes, communities, and schools. Thus, the importance of schools and teachers has been explained time and again. So a lot of good work has happened in this particular area. I was going through some literature with regard to some schools, especially in a lot of good work has happened in Sweden, also in some parts of US. I was reading about classrooms that are full of mood meters and feeling charts, as well as quiet areas that students can go to think, problem solve, and reflect and resolve disputes using clearly defined steps that are age appropriate and led by them, led by students itself. Now, at times, there are a lot of activities that can be incorporated. For instance, theater, which is referred to as social art, with good reasons. You interact all the time. The beauty of lessons organized around theater is the flexibility. You can have short skits of around 3 minutes, incorporate reading, writing, personal experiences, biographies, demonstrations, documentaries, puppet shows. Now, so why not challenge students to research and write a short skit? Say, for instance, about a famous mathematician or a scientist or a writer, and show how their work changed things. Or, for instance, present funny, sad, unexpected happenings during the pandemic. So I think it's really important to create a warm classroom culture, because students learn best when they feel safe and cared for. Let each student know that they are respected and cared for. That really helps, in terms of giving them comfort. Another thing which I feel is very important is making discipline more inclusive. Like, wherein discipline too can be more focused on healing relationships rather than punishment. So, for instance, when a child misbehaves, frame it as a poor choice, not evidence that he's a bad kid. Discuss behavior with students by working with them to set classroom norms and having regular meetings about how those norms are working. Also, I think another thing, and a lot of these things that we are discussing, we are putting a name to it. A lot of these things are actually being done. And I'm sure esteemed educators in this forum are completely well aware about this. Broadening definition of student success that we have been discussing again and again in this forum. Because when we discuss about success, for instance, if a student is persistent and is able to overcome personal challenges, that also is success. So by emphasizing social emotional development, undoubtedly students have a more clear idea. I also would like to mention about a research work that has been done by Stephanie Jones, a professor at Harvard University in this particular area. So what she has done is that she has developed more than 40 social, emotional little routines that any teacher can do anytime. And she has termed it as kernels. So these are small routines, around 40 she has developed. For instance, routines that any teacher can do anytime, be it during a math class or while lining up students in the hallway. So exercises like deep breathing, which she has referred to as belly breathing, a technique to help students deal with stress and anxiety. So this entire initiative has been funded by Chan Zuckerberg Initiative. So this particular research, which is still being done as late as 2020, these were formed and some projects are still being carried out in this regard to see what the actual effect is. Actual effect of these small routines. Can they act as stress busters? Can they really promote well-being? Can they make students more at ease? So these are the objectives. Also, I was going through some work that has been done by Mark Brackett and Yale Child Study Center expert, founding director at the Yale Center for Emotional Intelligence. Now, a very interesting concept called ruler. Ruler has been developed by Mark. And this is now being used in more than 2,500 schools in US. So what actually is ruler? So it's an acronym. Each of these, alphabets, RULER, represents, for instance, it starts with recognizing emotions in oneself and other people. U stands for understanding the causes and consequences of those emotions. L stands for labeling emotions with precise words. E stands for expressing emotions, and R stands for regulating emotion. So this is being successfully, and here if you see, the whole emphasis is around SEL, social emotional learning. So this concept of ruler is being actively taught, practiced, popularized across schools. Of course, as of now, it's a test project in around 2,500 schools, and I'm sure in future, many other schools will be adapting them. But then again, as we discuss, as I was telling you, that maybe we are trying to put a name to a lot of practices that are already existing. But yes, it's important to recognize and to appreciate the fact that yes, social emotional learning is really important for wholesome development of a child. Now, if a child is really good, he can do advanced math, speak multiple languages, do great in terms of grade. But if he or she can't manage their emotions or can't resolve conflicts they happen, right? Happen with peers, later point of time when he or she grows up at workplace, or handling stress. None of the other achievements are really going to matter in the long run. And as we have discussed in the forum as well, that we have seen this problem in many places, even corporates coming back and saying that, okay, even after someone is completing academics, they are not job ready. Why do they again need to be taken through a long series of trainings, etc.? And in many cases, they are not lacking in terms of domain knowledge. As far as domain knowledge goes, they may be very good at it, doing fantastic. But the challenge is, when all is good, when the going is great, they're all high flyers. But the moment they arrive at a pressure situation, many of them may be finding it difficult to cope with. So that's the need of the hour, as we were discussing, is really emphasize on these aspects. I would like to sum up with a beautiful quote by Heather Shoemaker, who said that emotional learning is not a quick or easy lesson. Many adults never master it, but practice makes us better. The more practice young children get, the better they will be able to express their emotions and control their behavior. We have a great, wonderful panel today, very experienced and senior panel. And I really look forward to the deliberation on this very important topic. I thank all of you for giving me a patient hearing. Over to you, Shumai.
Thank you, Achin. Thank you for shedding light on further aspects of the topic. I think the audience now understands what social emotional learning is all about, and we are waiting to hear more from our esteemed panelists. However, ladies and gentlemen, I'll take this opportunity to tell you a little bit about Notebook before we dive into the discussion. We at Notebook are an EdTech organization. We make short videos pertaining to the school curriculum, which means every topic right from class 1 through to class 12 of the CBSE curriculum is made into short videos that are available both to you as a teacher when you're taking your class, whether online or offline, or they're available to your students on their own devices, whether it's a laptop, a smartphone, or whatever they have, and they can access this from home, which now means that you could share links to Notebook videos before a class, and students could get a visual understanding of a topic even before walking into class. I will now play a short snippet of one of the Notebook videos so that you can understand better what it is that I'm going on about.
The chapter begins with a small anecdote about an 8th century Chinese painter, Wu Daozi. His last painting was a landscape which was authorized and sponsored by the Tang Emperor Xuanzong to decorate a palace wall. After his work was completed, he called on the emperor to view and appreciate his painting. He had hidden his painting behind a screen so that only the emperor could view it. The emperor admired the wonderful scenery for a long time, paying attention to the forests, the high mountains, waterfalls, the floating clouds in the sky, along with the flying birds and the men walking along a hilly path. The painter then informed the emperor that in the mountain cave at the foot of the mountains lived a spirit. The doors to the cave appeared suddenly after the painter clapped his hands. He then invited the emperor to come inside the cave and led the way forward. However, to the emperor's astonishment, the doors to the cave closed behind the painter and the entire painting vanished from the wall of the palace. That was the last time the painter Wu Daozi was seen in this world. Such legends and anecdotes played an important part in Chinese classical education, as they helped the masters to guide their disciples in the right direction. The books of Confucius and Zhuangzi are filled with such stories. These were used by masters to explain the concept and meaning of art and to make abstract ideas comprehensible to their students.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, as I said, content like this makes the topic more easy to visualize for young students. If you head on to our website, www.notebook.school, you would find more than 10,000 such videos at your disposal that will make teaching more fun and learning perhaps a little more easy. Also, before I start with the discussion, let me remind you that we are now starting live sessions. These are doubt clearing sessions that students can attend, learn from some of our teachers, and also get a lot of their doubts cleared. I'm sure you as educators are already doing a lot of online classes every day, but this will perhaps aid your efforts in solving those individual doubts to some more degree. All that students need to do is go on to this link that is given on your screen here, or send an SMS to the number that you're seeing on the screen, and they can get registered. With that out of the way, it is now my privilege to introduce the fantastic panel that we have discussing the topic today. We are privileged to have with us Dr. Jaya Bansal, who is the managing director of half a dozen schools and colleges in and around Dibai in Bulandshahr district of UP. She holds an MA in economics, an MBA in human resource management, and also a PhD in management. She completed her schooling from DPS Arkepuram and a bachelor's degree from Lady Shriram College, Delhi University. She has been looking after the management of this institution since 1998. Working in a predominantly educationally and economically backward region, she has strived hard to achieve excellence at her institution, Rajni Public School, which is CBSE affiliated, through various innovative modern aids of education like smart classes, use of audiovisual aids, computer and math labs. She has been an active participant in various educational and managerial seminars and conferences in India and abroad, in USA, Australia, and Dubai, and has been awarded for her efforts by numerous organizations. She was group leader of 8-day International Hindi Conference organized by Bharatiya Sanskriti Sansthan in Australia, which was held at Sydney, Gold Coast, and Cairns in 2012. Having varied interests and hobbies, she has participated in a couple of car rallies and won medals there. She has been the editor-in-chief of school and college magazines and has also edited a number of other published works. She is associated with a number of social organizations and sports associations. She is presently coordinator of Women and Child Development of Western UP chapter of Bharat Vikas Parisad. Ma'am, thank you so much for being here today. It's an honor to have you on this platform. We also have with us Mr. Dilip Kumar sir, who was born and brought up in Bokaro Steel City, and he holds an MEd and an MPhil and a degree in English for academic purposes from Amity University and a degree in HR management. He has been the recipient of Pandit Madan Mohan Malviya National Mission on Teachers and Teaching PMMNMTT Award by MHRD Government of India, the Avantika Dr. APJ Abdul Kalam Award for Principals, Rashtriya Mahatma Samman 2019, Effective Principles of 2019, chosen by eminent educationist Education Today, started teaching in 1991 from VKV Arunachal Pradesh and then worked at the Assam Valley School and the Lawrence School. He has worked as education officer with Darshan Education Foundation in New Delhi and worked as principal at GD Goenka International School, Mayur School, and Disha College. He is presently the principal of the Star Public School in Lumshnong in Meghalaya. Sir, it is great to have you back on the platform. Thank you so much for being here today. We also have with us Mrs. Hemlata Shukla Suri. She is a passionate psychologist and a registered rehabilitation professional with rich experience in both corporate sector and mental health. She is an alumni of University of Delhi and Jamia Millia Islamia. She is empaneled as CBSE counselor and a rehab psychologist for the last 7 years, and also a registered Manudarpan helpline. She is a member of NCS, AISUCAP, and IAHP. She currently works at the Carmel Convent School in New Delhi. She is extremely passionate about mental health, and her work relates especially to children and adolescents. Her endeavor has always been to create much needed awareness about mental health and break the stigma attached to mental illness. She tries and reaches out to people in need of support and counseling. Her work also involves conducting free workshops in coordination with NGOs at Delhi's government schools on various subjects related to children and parents, like POXO, substance abuse, studying skills, sports psychology, adolescents and their issues, life skills, sustainable development new goals, mindfulness, learning disabilities, inclusion, etc. She has conducted and participated in various workshops and conferences related to the field of disability and mental health. She is one of the founding members of the Delhi Teachers Forum. She is also one of the founding members of Intellify, a non-profit organization run by IIT Delhi students. She is an avid naturalist and a member of the Indian Bonsai Association, All India Kitchen Garden Association, and India Succulent Association. She is a regular sponsor and funds students, especially girl children, and their education at various forums. She has also been a panelist at Doordarshan Science Doordarshan, Astha Channel program on mental health and Divyangjan, IIT Intellify, MGIP UNESCO events, Project CSCS seminar on child sexual abuse. She hopes to make a difference in lives of others through her efforts. Ma'am, we congratulate you for the fantastic work that you're doing and privileged to have you on this platform. I'll now start my video, stop the share so that we can see each other. And I would request you to please switch on your videos so that we can begin this discussion. Once again, thank you so much for being here. It's our privilege to host you. Dr. Bansal, if I may come to you first. Ma'am.
Yes.
Thank you so much for being here. Good evening.
Good evening.
Ma'am, my first question to you, we would like to hear about your personal experience with this social emotional learning bit.
Okay. First of all, thanks for inviting me in this beautiful session. And regarding SEL, as we have been hearing, and I would like to share some things, though I think the concept of SEL is quite clear now as the discussions have taken place. And specifically, what I feel is SEL is the foundation. It is the heartbeat of the classroom. So it is very essential if we want our children to be secure, safe, and lead a good future, satisfied future. We need to have SEL environment in the school and later on also in colleges. And regarding the question you are asking me, my experience. So what I feel is that SEL is really helpful. We have been practicing some such programs, SEL programs. And what I feel is that they really bring about positive behavior in the children. Because I can remember a girl student in our school, and she was like, she used to get irritated. She used to beat children, even the elder ones, and she used to bite them and all. We used to see very aggressive behavior on her part. And later on, we just tried to find out what was the problem. So then we came to know that she had some bad time at home. So I think she had a disturbed family. Her parents, they used to fight and they didn't have good relation with each other. So that was the reason. And then how we tackled her, how we tried to teach her good things, how we brought confidence in her. And that was the thing. That was a long way back, I think more than 10, 15 years back. But now this concept of social emotional learning, nowadays it becomes very important. And as far as our concern, my practicing is concerned, I have found that sports is a very good media, is a very good way of bringing about emotional and social learning environment among the children. And for this, we have been organizing different programs, sports programs, indulging the students in yoga sessions, sports activities, organizing cycle rallies, bicycle rallies, and such plantation programs, because these are the times when children come, they connect with each other, they connect with the teachers, they are slightly informal, they bring out their best. I think what I believe is then that once a child is in the classroom, he or she has to perform only academically mainly. But once he or she is out of the classroom, the real person who he is, that comes out, and that is what is much needed. There we can recognize what are the problems, or what are the things which we must appreciate, the things on which we must study, that those are the things. And that is really very important nowadays, because nowadays in the times of COVID, this social and emotional learning has become more important, because now the children's their education is more challenging, it is more traumatic, stressful. Children are studying from home, they are in a chaotic position, in a very difficult position, how to deal with online learning, and then how to attempt their evaluation part, how to attempt the test, and so many things are going on, we are seeing in education field. So I think that is my experience, and mainly I feel that sports is a very natural opportunity for the social and emotional skill building, because sports involves teams, it is goal oriented, and there are multiple opportunities for problem solving when the children involve themselves in sports. It involves practice, and practice leads to improvement of performance. What is the main thing we want from a child? That is, we want the performance should be improved. So and when children play together, they sit together, they have free time together, they come to know each other, and they strive to do good, and that is what we want. They try to be better human beings. So ultimately what we are all doing, we educationists are all involved in making our child, I think, a good human being. That is the ultimate priority. Thank you.
Thank you so much, ma'am. Over these last almost 1 year plus of our discussions, one thing that has clearly emerged is if we could ensure that every child plays a team sport for 1 hour every day, we would have an overall development in the country.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, ma'am.
Well,
Dilip Kumar, sir, let me come to you next. Sir, your experience with SEL.
Namaskar to all panel, and Achin sir, Philip sir, and Dr. Jaya, Bansal, everybody has made their point very clear. So I will just refer some of my experience. I was working in a group of a school as education officer in Delhi, and whenever I visited the school, the day starts with the 10-minute meditation. And meditation was in a such way conducted. It was for not only for the student. Usually what happened, teacher, they will dictate that, okay, close your eyes. But every member of the community, all the stakeholder at that very time, who all are in the campus, everybody will do 10-minute meditation. Not observing and watching others, but rather doing truly in 10-minute time. And it has impacted. It has got very good results there. Though the organization believes that you must give 10% of day for meditation, but for school students, they say that 10%, 10 minutes before the day starts. And then once they develop, they understand, they know themselves, they realize. So this meditation has developed their concentration, their emotional well-being, social well-being. And what happens that aftermath of war, throughout the world, people started talking about there must be some strategies. We must come together for peace building or peace education, or the world should have peace. But what I feel, one more example I will put before that, like saving, concept of saving is that people get the salary, and after salary they spend whatever is saved, that they do the saving. But some people say no, first you take out the saving and then you spend. So after something has happened, we start thinking that we will require now peace building, mindfulness, cooperation, empathy, collaborative learning, helping others. So this we have to have in the beginning, or if we have in the beginning, then the problem which we are facing, it will not be. A sudden situation has arisen, we all are trapped, but notebook. Last 1 year, you are doing a great service to not only, we are talking about children, but the main important stakeholders are teachers. Who is talking about their well-being? They have opportunity. I can see some questions are also coming. So the A to Z participants, parents, students, teacher, promoters, people who are involved in developing learning material, all are here, all the stakeholders. So this time we are contributing. We means I am just giving the credit to notebook, that without fail, continuously, regularly, you are conducting and you are providing without any charge. I am aware that there are, you see, some people started, they found that, okay, this is a great opportunity. Let us go for this webinars, ask for registration amount, something. But you are not charging any amount and doing a great service to the teaching community. And we must talk first, teacher first. Once you talk about social and emotional well-being of the teachers, it will impact. It will go to the student community. So what has happened in 1991, one more example I will give you, rather meditation. When I started, the idea and motto of that organization was man making a nation building. What is lacking today? We talk about, we give credit to, okay, if you are getting 90% or 95%, you are doing good. You are good student. The definition of good, we put tag, we put that, okay, who gets the highest mark? And we forget that child who is sincerely having empathy, is caring, is worrying about helping, cooperating, we do not give recognition. And if we take those value, if we start recognizing that this service is required, serve it at regional level, state level, national level, or international level. It is not against each other, but it is in continuation. So this mindset, that service mindset, nation building mindset, if it is developed from beginning, if we offer this, we must talk about the holistic education. We are talking about mental development, physical development. Also, when we go for them, we learn a lot of things, we imbibe. Vital, psyche. But one important aspect is spiritual. Until unless I know that there is light and sound within me, and the same light and sound within you, and we try to understand this prospect, the world will become a better place, a peaceful place, a place. We are talking about the tension of Israel and Palestine. We are talking about India and Pakistan. Find out those places. Give example of those places where people live happily beyond the border. They go from this border to another part of the country and they do the cultivation and they come back. So we promote some good example of this type of things. We encourage the real contribution. And last few months or few years, I am just thinking that some mothers and some parents, what they are doing, okay, If they want to do some well-being, if they are thinking well-being, okay, take this mobile Android phone, go for PUBG or go for Clash of Clans. 3-4 hours you play, and then you will study for half an hour. This television and news and this type of material, why don't you give the beautiful material of notebook? It is also in pictorial expression, explanation, everything is perfect. I think CBSE and all other boards should come forward and incorporate these things. In difficult time, the student study will not suffer. And I remember you offered even free initially for a few months. We were using that time. And from well-being part, yes, as a housemaster at Lawrence School, Lovedale, my duty was also mentoring, a counselor, and we have seen all these things. But in most of the CBSE school, here two type of schools we have to take. The residential school situation will be different and day school situation will be different. But as per the CBSE is concerned, CBSE has mandated that every school must have health and wellness teacher recognized by, approved by Rehabilitation Council of India, in addition to special educator. But only that a special educator or counselor will not be able to do everything. Every teacher has to contribute as a counselor. Every teacher is a mentor. And where we need schools, where we need this building. And what Mr. Achin was telling, when adults develop these social and emotional skills, research shows better outcome. Yes, it is proved, it is established. So don't wait for the situation to arise and look for the solution. Let us start the good investment, good thing in social and emotional well-being. Recognize those people who all are contributing significantly in this service-oriented profession. So teachers. And one more thing I will say, most of the panel and maybe participant may not agree, but what I strongly feel, remove this examination, board examination system. 3-hour examination and you give the result. You create, university may have the pressure that how will we take admission this year because that percentage, that race is not there. But believe me, that Prime Minister of our country has done a great job, and a school educator has responsibility to monitor, evaluate continuously, not based on one particular annual board examination. I work with International Baccalaureate and I know that they assess throughout the year. If one examination you have not written, no problem, that weightage may be 20. There is oral, there is a creative excellence service program, there is extended essay, there are internal assignment externally moderated. So there are 5 and 6 segments they have made. And student and teacher as well. If I do a B.Ed here, or if I purchase a B.Ed here, rather I bluntly if I say that if I have money, I give and purchase a B.Ed in India. While working in a school, teacher bring a B.Ed degree. And there are institutions. But if you go to, I'm not fan of a particular country. I'm just quoting an example that how that well-being it can be done without stress. So you go for B.Ed abroad, and then you are given a project. Look for this book, do a project, come back on that. From there you have second assignment, third assignment, then credit goes on, and this annual board examination of 3 hours is not there. Rather, your continuous credit and your social well-being, you are involved throughout. So yes, exchange, round square did a great job. When I was in Assam Valley School, I took the student to Bangladesh, had the opportunity to interact with students from various countries, involved in community service projects. Yes, it is wonderful experience throughout, but don't wait for the problem to arise. Rather, make it integrated part. Put some marks for this also. Social and emotional well-being also. Give credit to students. Thank you very much. It is a nice opportunity for sharing my viewpoint, and I give all credit to Notebook for the wonderful work, and all the board, CBSC, ICSC, International Baccalaureate has got excellent material they can utilize. And it is always a delight to listen Philip Burrett sir and Achin sir, who have given a big corporate career. They are also paying back to the society. All these things goes in social and emotional well-being. That giving a credit of delight and coming back and starting your own venture. That okay, some change I will bring in field of education. So great job indeed. Thank you very much, all of you,
Much,
and
sir.
please take the question answer also at two questions I can see that involving all the stakeholders regarding parent and verbal and non-verbal. So these also you can take in.
Surely, sir. First of all, thank you so much. At Notebook, when we get experienced principals like you appreciating our work, that means the world to us. And as you said earlier, the teacher first. That has been the motto at Notebook throughout. And we are so privileged to have your appreciation, sir. Thank you so much.
Thank you,
Hemlata
sir.
ma'am, if I may come to you next. Ma'am, you've worked with so many children and adolescents, especially on mental health. How important is this social emotional learning, or how do you deal with it? Any experiences?
Namaskar and very warm good evening to all my co-panelists and attendees. And thank you, Notebook, for having me once again here on this wonderful platform and the wonderful, commendable work you're doing. It's always pleasure and pride to be part of your initiatives. And like I've been always watching your videos if I'm not able to attend the program live. So it's like wonderful work you're doing, and something very wonderful subjects also you choose, and this is like very important subject. It's not only in times of corona but otherwise also for decades social and emotional learning has been a very pertinent subject and very close to all the counselors work which is there. We whatever we do, these things come in handy. So, and it was really enlightening to listen to all the panelists, esteemed panelists, and their perspectives. It was enlightening, and the points which they made were very pertinent. And the submissions were very vital in terms that I've learned a lot and I've got some new perspectives to look at the subject. And we all would vehemently agree that social emotional learning is an essential thing, and it is something which is very important for us to work on. And we as teachers, parents, and any other influential adult which forms a part of the child or a student forms a part of the pillar and the triangle which we work in, and the child comes in the center, and all of us work towards the benefit of the child and towards the development of the child's social emotional development, and which is actually important for his or her future success. So we all know that it is imperative that we all work together. The kind of future model which is like my dream model, which I always vouch for in school, and I try to emphasize on, that we as teachers must work closely with parents, because home is everything, because the child uh, spends a lot of time at home, and he or she gets affected, because domestic environment, as Dr. Jaya mentioned about this child, there are many child which we meet in school, and we always, without thinking twice, we judge, we make an opinion, this child has this problem, this child will always behave like this. So being a counselor, I never look into what are behaviors or the symptoms the child is showing, the chief complaints I give a due importance to the observations which are given to me, which is basically again a part of social emotional learning which child has imbibed through the home atmosphere. because the child comes, spends almost 2.5 to 3 years before coming to us, to the preschool. Everywhere we will find so many things which we will see in a child when the child is behaving in a certain fashion at school. And these things are really important and play a very important role. So as teachers, parents, and as other stakeholder, we must have this assessment of this social emotional learning. This will help us to how to scaffold children's learning in the future, and then move forward with their development. So when parents, teachers, and educators, like special educator, I also work as a special educator, which is something very important nowadays, because every class of 40 we will find 10% children having these issues, these emotional issues, or maybe the learning issues, various kind of gamut of issues we'll find in them. So I really work with, sometimes just counseling would help, sometimes just a strategies interventional plan would help. So here, when I talk about parents, teachers, and educators, they always should work in that model of which is basically a partnership, which is supposed to be a very important partnership, though a very challenging one in today's world to look for. But then when we work together, we'll share our skills, knowledge, perspectives, which will really bring us a lot of change. And when we'll share the commonality of goal, which the teacher has in mind, which the parents have in mind, when they come together and discuss a child's behavior at home, and when the teacher talks about the social behavior the child is exhibiting in the school, and during the reading, I mean during the studies in the class, out of the class, there, because we at school we have got several professionals who are handling the child. We have got yoga teacher, we have got subject teachers, we have got activity teachers, we have got games teacher, physical education teacher, as ma'am also mentioned, and all my co-panelists have mentioned that this is very important to see the child work at various levels, and then we teach them these things. Like if you see, and I for me it's the parental role which is very important when we look at social emotional learning. Like it is whether we call it social emotional learning or emotional intelligence, or sometimes we call it as soft skills. This is another name which is given to this all parts of form of kind of a life skills program is very much there on CBSE. Some 6-7 years back, CBSE was really emphasizing on these skills which need to be taught. But and there were manuals also, beautiful manuals which are there. Teachers, you all can reach out to those manuals and use them in your classrooms. You can collaborate, you can use them in your various lesson plans there, because this is very important. We as teachers, because we have very few counselors are given administrative job, as Burrett sir clearly mentioned. Most of the time counselors are not doing what they're supposed to do. It may be sometimes just an appointment which is there with the CBSE. We say, see, we have a counselor who is there at the school doing blah blah blah, whatever, XYZ kind of things which are there. So I'm sorry to mention, but that is the truth which is there. So what happens is that we need to really pay attention. Some questions we really need to ask ourselves as parents, that is that whether our child is actually having problems in attention, paying attention, listening carefully, following directions, and does our child gets upset easily whenever given some task at the school, at home, which is challenging, which is not the usual task the child is able to do. So all these things, if the child, if he or she is finding trouble in making, in doing that task, and also making friends, somebody coming home, they don't like it, they don't want to adjust, they don't want to share things, they don't want that guest to come to their room, or maybe just touch any of the stuff in their room. This happens, as we say, due to some nuclear families, this is very common thing. But this is something very important we must look into. If the answer is yes about all these things, then we must need to look into the child's emotional, social emotional learning, which is very important. These are the skills which are very vital for their future success at school, work, and in life, because very imperative that our child is a child or a adult. When we get grow into an adult, we must be able to pay attention to things which are, even if they are small nitty gritty of the details, we should be able to pay attention. We should be able to listen. We should be able to manage our emotions, because life is not what we expect. I mean, the big picture is that anything can come. I mean, these times of corona have taught us the kind of uncertainties we have, unpredictability we have in life. So we must teach our children the kind of emotional regulation, which is very important. They must know the strategies. They must know how to cope up with our emotions. If something is not coming my way, it shouldn't be like highway. I mean, it happens, my way or highway. It is not the case. Life is not like that. Can we do this now? Now we have been, sorted properly, nice and properly. We have sorted by this COVID time, by the mother nature, by our mother nature, by whatever is happening around us. We are completely sorted now. So we must make our children also understand, as Dilip sir mentioned, that it is CBSE, it is Prime Minister, PMO has done enough. We have done, they have put in the policies, but we as educator must talk about these things. As parent, we must teach them emotional regulation, which is very important thing. And also resilience. If something doesn't happen, I should look other way. And when I talk about the strategies, sorry, I missed on that. Coping strategies, we must teach them mindfulness. We must teach them some yoga. We must teach them things like having gratitude for whatever we have, because this time has taught us adults. We must pass on this to our students. And I'm really, I feel sorry for these youngsters, because, and especially the preschoolers, for the past 2-3 years they are completely missing on social emotional learning. So as parents, as teachers, we must work on these skills very strongly. Let's not talk about tables and ABCD. We put it aside for some time. Let's go Japanese way for some time. This is our time. We need to make them resilient. We need to make them emotionally regulated. We must make them children who can get along with their friends and peers when they meet in reality, because this is virtually they are meeting everyone. They just see the teacher on the screen, but they have not touched that teacher. They have not met that teacher. And other things which is important here is, as a educator, I feel in social emotional learning, is to resist inappropriate social pressures which are there. Like Burrett sir also mentioned, those bullying times, those peer approval times, many things which are there. And when these children actually go in real world, and now also, like this online, I mean, cyberbullying is rampant. Many children, without knowing, they're getting into these things. So I mean, we must need to talk about it as parents and teachers. And also, there has to be assertiveness which we need to teach them, but in a positive manner, like, which is something very important. So, and when we talk about self regulation techniques to control their emotions, we must tell them that gratitude, having a kindness, and having being mindful, we must exhibit as parent also. We must exhibit certain behaviors when we talk to our children. So very important, we have to model the behavior we seek. We cannot be just physically present there, because we all are physically present at home. I mean, hardly anyone is going. I know mothers and especially ladies have like WFH square. I say work from home square. It is work for home and work from home. So this is something which is really driving us crazy. So, but then whenever we get back after our the daily work, we get back to our phone. We hardly get time to, or we get back to our work. We have our online teaching also. Some people are working like software professionals. They sit for hours together, and children are doing whatever they're doing. So we must have certain things in place to guide them through this, because emotional control, to I mean, to see through those certain things which are there, we must teach them to control themselves, because and then decision making, which is very important here. So as we are, my panelists have, all the co-panelists have talked about these things, that empathy is something which is very important. Decision making, which comes in handy. And as parents, this is the time we must give them, like sir also talked about, Dilip sir has talked about problem solving, like giving them project and tell them pick up certain, give them references, give them a framework, and they will work. So that gives them intuitive thinking, problem solving, and also decision making to come down to certain conclusions. So this is part of very crucial things. They form a crucial part of this social emotional learning. And then comes respect, respecting and having empathy, having self awareness, and then having self motivation and social engagement. These things are very important here. As parents, as teachers, we must show this, because if we give respect, we get respect. Respect is something which is mutual, and no matter, I mean, how, senior or big we are in our places, but what is important is basic thing that remains is to give respect to others' opinion, to validate their feelings, to validate their opinion, not to dismiss. I mean, we must teach our children this dismissal, denial is something which we definitely got to do away. This is something which is, I mean, really makes me sad sometimes. I go for observations in classes, and then we find, children talking amongst themselves, they're chatting amongst themselves. As parents, we are there at the other end. We must try and disable these options, or have something. There are many softwares and apps which are there in place. We can have a control. And being strict doesn't mean that you're being a Hitler, and being let go, giving them opportunities all the time doesn't mean that you are being a very nice parent. We are very permissive, because it has to be a balance of everything to make them socially and they're learning in a social emotional way. And we must tell them about their weaknesses and the strengths. We must ignore certain things, where they're not able to do. But what we do generally as a human tendency, जो चीज नहीं हुई है हम उसको ज्यादा बोलते हैं, ये काम तुमने नहीं किया, ये क्यों नहीं किया, अरे उसने 5 में से वो 4 काम जो किए हैं या 2 काम ही किए हैं, तो एटलीस्ट गिव देम सम appreciation, due importance to that child. There is a sense of achievement, definitely. Appreciation goes a long way, even if it's a little thing he or she has done. So it's very important to teach them to look for the weaknesses which are there, but then work on those limitations. But always hold on to their strengths, which is very important, and work on the differences and respecting their opinions. So as a parent and teachers don't have time, I understand, but as parents it's very important to have that active listening. You must listen to the child. We must get involved with our children, which is something very important, because most of the time I'm having my phone in front of my eye, my child is trying to reach out to me, trying to tell me something, and most of the time I hear from parent, madam, ये मेरे से बात नहीं करती है मैम, my daughter doesn't talk to me, ma'am, my child is not connecting to me, he or she is locking herself in the inside a room, or she's always on the phone. But do we ever think about our own this thing? How much attention are we paying when the child is trying to tell us something? Even little things are important here. So it's very important. Sometimes we are not able to understand, definitely we can take a help of resources and other people. So something goes a long way is making that connection in these corona times. And we always cribbed before, 2 years back, we always said we don't have time to spend with our children. I worked in a corporate job also, so there I knew morning till evening I was busy. When I'll get back home, I would ask, आज क्या क्या किया स्कूल में, show me your homework. No, that is not important, because you must have sent your child, some days they are grumpy, they don't want to go to school, they have certain issues. So we can always ask, अच्छा उस friend के साथ कट्टी हो गया था, are you okay with that, आपका sort out हो गया, have you made it up with your friend, are you okay, how was your day, you didn't do that homework, what did your teacher tell you something, did you get into that trouble? So they will feel happy, at least कोई मेरे बारे में पूछ रहा है, somebody is asking, caring for me, rather than all these physical things which are there around me. So it's very important to build that connection with our children, to reach out to them, just in order to make them socially intelligent and socially and emotionally resilient, which is very important in these times. And for the students of 10th and 12th, I would just like to mention that be mindful, remain in the moment, because things are getting planned. Don't worry, people will be working out for your benefit. So don't worry, don't keep brooding, don't keep ruminating on your thinking thoughts, because ye ho jayega, wo ho jayega, everything will be done. Don't worry, it will take some time, because being alive is something which is important, being healthy is something which is very important. So thank you so much, Notebook, for having me here on this very important topic for today.
Thank you so much, ma'am. Thank you so much. Dr. Bansal, if I may come to you with just one important question that I was thinking about. You work in a place where you've yourself gone to elite institutes, and I'm sure the parents around most of our urban centers are fairly aware of issues like these. It is the place where you're working currently, right? That parents are not that aware. How do you
Mm.
then bring parents into the fold when it comes to social emotional learning? How do you make them aware of these issues?
Yeah, parents here are not at all aware about all these things. Actually, they just know that they are sending their child to school, and it is now the school's responsibility to bear all the burden, to teach them properly, to make them good citizens, to even children coming from villages. In our area, children are coming from villages. So they don't have a proper bath in the morning. So once they are entering the school, we have to ensure all these things that slowly this takes place slowly. Even I have a degree college as well. I'm managing a degree college. There also I see children coming from the state boards. In the first year we have to transform them, we have to work so much on them, teaching them the small little things, the behaviorism, the mannerisms, the little things, how to speak properly, how to behave with your teachers, how to talk with your classmates and all that, because they are so rustic. So that is the thing, that is a real issue here. And social, economic, emotional learning, they don't understand what is that. They will, if like one of the things is that, as I think Dilip sir said that, or somebody said that once you are entering the school, Achin sir, I think he said, then just greet the child and all that. So they will not consider these things. They will say, no, we will take them to the class. The parents say, we will take them to the class. It is not the teacher's responsibility. I want to see the classroom. I want the child to, I want to see how my child is sitting and all that. So there's a lot of difference because they are not exposed to all these things. And I think, yes, it is a very it is a challenging issue out here, and that we have been facing for such a long time, but we have been working in a positive mindset. And that is the main thing, because generally what we people understand is not what they understand. Even the teachers, I can't say that my teachers as well, they are also not so trained, but we have to expose them to such ideas. And even for this speech, this lecture or whatever, I have invited so many teachers. You just see what happens, what is happening in the world. So that is a lot of difference which we have to face. And but I am working over it, because I myself have studied in such schools and educational institutions. I had opportunity to leave and India and work in other countries. As a lot of opportunities were there, but I still chose to work here. The main reason was that I wanted to make some changes here, because in big cities everything is done so easily. The real challenge is here, what we are doing here. So children come in a very, even the parents, they come very agitated. Sometimes in the office they will come, they will especially bring all their complaints on the day when the fees is being collected. You see, when the fees is being collected, they will come and they will say, no studies are taking place, these are the problems, that is the problem, I am facing problem in the transport system and all that, many problems and everything. Just they want to show that I am paying you, and that is the reason I have just taken control of all your things. And so that is the thing. So we have to control their anger, their whatever strong feelings. It is, I don't know what you people feel, but I can say that the media has made the private schools, they have shown such an image of the private schools. The parents feel that we are looters, what we are doing, I don't know what they feel. They have such bad impression about the schools. So such feelings are there among the parents, and they come there, and we have to somehow subside those feelings and make them and especially our task is to develop the coming generation. I'm not concerned about the parents now. I am more concerned about the coming generation. I want to reform the children who are coming at my school. That is my primary task. And for that, I need that we should work for them rather than thinking of the generation who has already grown up. So our task is to just work on these little children. So that is the main thing. I think I have answered the question you posed.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, ma'am. Especially hats off to the kind of work you're doing there. When we started Notebook, and also work with some certain state boards, we have content for West Bengal board and UP board. And when we spoke to schools over there, what you're talking about became so apparent. This world of difference that exists between an urban CBSE or especially an IB school and what a small state board school in interior of some state might be feeling.
Yeah.
And to everybody like you who's working tirelessly to bring such education to those students, hats off, ma'am. Uh, I just have time for one last question. We're already over our time limit, actually. And I'll just throw it open to all three of you because I think this one is a very important one to address. There is one question that has come in that says, uh, how can we balance the silent psychology while fighting with our own depression? Sir, I'll not name you because we would not want it to be named, but from me personally, it's my sincere advice that you please talk to the counselor that you have at your school if you are feeling depressed. Depression is not something that is to be taken lightly, and I genuinely advise that you talk to the counselor as well. But I will obviously leave it to our three expert panelists to give you more advice on this. Any of you who would want to talk to the person on this?
I would
Uh,
like to answer this.
yes, Hemlata ma'am, please go for it.
Yeah. So if you have some counseling psychologist around your place, you may do that. You may also call Manodarpan. You may also call National Book Trust Helpline, CBSE Helpline. There are many other helplines which are there. You can call them up. Many of them work on voluntary basis and they don't charge you anything. And then they can advise you accordingly. Because sometimes, if you are having this problem of depression for the almost, it's hampering your daily work, daily routine, and it's causing a lot of distress in everything you are handling, then definitely you need to see a counselor, and counselor would decide assessing your state, whether you would like you will have to go for psychiatrist or a medication or not, because there's something you cannot ignore. This is something which will really will be traumatic for your child, because it will hamper in all the dealings and the domestic atmosphere as a whole. So thank you.
Thank you so much, ma'am. Dilip sir, if we may just dwell on that one part that he said that how do you balance the psychology of the child? I mean,
You
can you?
see, what is our part as a teacher? So we have to do our work, our part. So we will be, as a teacher, we have lost many principal, many teachers. Unfortunately, very young principals, Raipur, who worked with me as a vice principal, and some of the principal we have lost. We have lost teachers. So yes, that then many stakeholders are there. You see, ma'am has come from working in abroad, leaving everything, has come here. So there are other people, other stakeholder who will take care. As I give the slogan, teacher first. So there is school management, promoters, government agency, philanthropists. All these people will take care of us also. What is in our hand, that yes, what is my duty, I will contribute. Yes, there are stress, and you believe me, there are many schools during this period has shut down. Many teachers lost their job. So yes, they are also struggling, they are having a stress, but at the same time, the private school unnecessarily targeted with the government note and orders, whereas there is no contribution from them. The private school is giving employment, private school is giving better quality education, and contributing to a big community. But simply, you see, whenever the any program comes, like notebook, what I was telling, that you see, notebook has developed quality material. Even when I go to my classroom, I read first or listen notebook, and then I go to the classroom. I accept this. So that's such a wonderful material. So what we need to do, why don't we make these available as an open resource? Let government purchase and distribute to all the state government. You have done with the two government. Why don't CBSE and other board, they provide this? So that you see, this is in their access. And what is our job? Because teacher job, teacher is instructional leader, teacher is social worker, teacher is mentor, teacher is counselor, teacher has to involve in community, and they are responsible toward the society, toward parent. I will just give you a small example. I was sitting in a school office, and one parent who has not paid the fee in UP. It is an incident from Uttar Pradesh. In Hardoi, I was principal in one school, and parent came and I asked that, okay, you just clear the fee, and then 10 class 10 we will take the admission. And outside immediately my office superintendent came and he told the police is coming. I told, police is coming? For what police is coming? So that parent has dialed 100 and police is coming. And officer came, police officer came. But fortunately what has happened that there was a camera in my office. So the whole thing, how he came and what he did, everything was recorded. So when he came, that what did you do? So I told everything is recorded. Even you came, we have that all the recording. So then the police officer, he was fair enough. He told that you clear the dues. Even I go to another school, we wait, and here you principal himself is coming and counseling you. People are not allowed to reach here, and so it was solved. So people also this they also react. They also react due to their compulsion. Teachers has their own compulsion, but yes, we need to balance, and this balance is the that social emotional being, and where the mindfulness comes, your wisdom comes. So you need to use your wisdom. Yes, community has a greater role. They also need to take a note, because you see, when I was in UP working with a school where we took 10 students from every district, and those rural students coming from the government school studying in the, and they came to Bulandshahr in Dulhara village and a school. Now those students are spread worldwide. If I go to Delhi University, at least 100 to 150 students, they come to meet me, and they are not from elite school. They are from that rural school which is run by a philanthropy, who is paying back to the society like you all are doing this job. So, and they are not only taking care of, they are not only paying back to the society and taking care of the rural children, but they will take care of the teachers. Here, you will be happy to note that last 2 years, not a single month, not a single month, not a single day we have delayed salary, not we have reduced any amount. We have paid full salary. And thanks to Star Cement and the chairman of Star Cement, Sajan Bhajanka ji, that he has taken a decision that there won't be any salary cuts. So we need to, so people are taking care. But as a teacher, as our role, we have to contribute. And other stakeholder will take care of us. That is my belief, and belief in you. And that, yes, recognize teachers. Teacher just need recognition. Or what ma'am has told, Hemlata ma'am has mentioned, give respect, get respect, and appreciate the work. So in difficult times, if in case you have some financial problem also, genuine problem will be there with the private school because it is not coming, then also with love, affection, appreciation, recognition, you can keep the teacher together and situation will change, because school cannot be replaced. That this emotion and social well-being which is coming from the heart, and no social distancing, rather physical distancing. I say that it's no time for social distancing. We are social beings. We just need to talk about physical distancing. It is okay, but not social distance.
Wonderful, sir. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
One thing here about
Yes,
this
ma'am.
balancing part, that I don't know the name of the gentleman, I don't want to take that. He must take care of himself well, and he must create a certain routine which has to be intentional with the child. They must have a routine, they must have some certain list of priorities. He can do that, because one feels cluttered, one feels very hopeless, one is not able to get sense of things, what is happening, not able to deal and cope up with stuff, so with the life day to day basis. So he or she can always make a list of things and prioritize what is important, and seek help. Look for help in your family around your head, and seek solutions and suggestions, which is very important here. So he can reach out to people, and maybe the child could be taken care of some other adult in the family if the problem is very serious. So, and he also can look for himself, for meditation, and talk to somebody, which is something important. He has to talk to somebody, and then look for meditation, look for some box breathing. You can go in for yoga exercises, because nothing can replace these things. Most of the time depression is treatable in the beginning, in the initial stages, because sometimes we all go through that. This is okay to be like this. It's a new normal. It's okay to be not okay sometimes, but when it goes on and drags on in our life and creates a lot of problems, on everyday basis for months together, then definitely we seek help. You must remain into that thing, must realize about things which are happening to you.
Thank you so much, ma'am. We are completely out of time. I would just want to just leave this with all of you once again. If you can take a screenshot of this and share it with students who you think might benefit from it. We are doing live sessions, which will start next Monday, the 14th of June. Well, once again, thank you to all of you for this wonderful, wonderful discussion. I will let Achin do the official vote of thanks. Dr. Bansal, if you find our discourses useful as training material for your teachers, all our past episodes, right from 1 through to 105, are available on YouTube right now. We keep on uploading these discussions on YouTube, and you can access them anytime you want to. These are completely free resources for any teachers to access.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Achin, over to you for the vote of thanks.
Yeah, I think really great session we had, and I really liked the kind of exchange of thoughts, and it was very free flowing, very seamless. But sir, thank you as always for giving us a great start, and for really mentioning some very important points, which I think later point of time our esteemed panelists also deliberated on and explained further. Dr. Bansal, I completely agree with you, ma'am. I think few things that you mentioned are very, very important. Especially, I really appreciate the kind of real challenges that we're discussing about and how you're dealing with them. It really takes a lot. And the overall transformation that you are discussing about, not only in terms of academic, but also overall transformation. Not only at, and also very interestingly, not only at primary level, but also for your degree college students coming in from other background, but still the whole inclusive approach of trying to take them along, that I think is something which is really commendable. So we really appreciate your good work that you're trying to do, as I think really hats off to you. And also I think two other important things you mentioned, ma'am. One is the importance of sports. I think you started deliberation with that.
Yeah.
Is something which is very important, and without mentioning sports, I guess this entire topic would have been incomplete. So I really thank you for that. Undoubtedly, it is very important.
Actually,
And secondly,
I read a lot of literature, but what I had in my mind, I had to express that. So I
right,
really encourage sports. So
right.
that I mentioned here.
Very true, very true. No, of course. Undoubtedly, as far as in terms of acting as a stress buster, in terms of ensuring that children bond well, sports is something very important. And especially today, in today's age, when last 15 months children are longing back to play with their friends, to go back to the playground, we miss this even more. So completely agree with you on that. We couldn't agree more. And also I think you discussed about the whole concept of working with a positive mindset, which also is very important. Challenges are real. Challenges have been there. Again, what happens is every new era, every new generation faces different kinds of challenge. The nature of challenge might vary, but the magnitude of challenge might not necessarily decrease. Challenges have been there, challenges will be there, different kinds of challenges. But it's important to stay focused, stay positive. I think positivity is the key. So thank you, ma'am, for your deliberation.
Welcome.
Dilip, sir, thank you so much for being with us here today and for your thought-provoking deliberation. I think we at Notebook completely agree with you when you say teacher first, contribution of teachers in terms of the community and the fact that schools are irreplaceable. I think as a brand, we believe in this. And right from day one, if you look at all our sessions, all deliberations, that is one thing that we have always believed. And with all sincerity, the whole effort from our part has always been to not to create an alternative teaching platform, but to act as a teaching aid. And I really thank you for your feedback. Really very encouraging, not only for me, but for my whole team as a whole. So I'd like to thank you on behalf of my entire team for your kind words and for your feedback. Also, sir, I think another thing that is really important that you are deliberating on is the importance of audiovisual content. And here I'm discussing about audiovisual content as a whole, not only for Notebook. I have always believed that for a country like ours, audiovisual content is really important, because if you want to ensure uniformity in terms of quality of education, the kind of challenges we were discussing, there are different countries within one country. The fact that if you look at an IB school student and if you look at someone studying in a state board, in a small town, or maybe in a village or an aspirational district, and the fact is every child deserves equal opportunity, at least in terms of education. Every child deserves a fair chance to come up in life. And I'm sure all of us agree to that. And undoubtedly, digital content can really act as a great equalizer. There's no doubt about it. I'm telling this in spite of the fact that I'm acutely aware about the digital divide that we have seen during pandemic, students not having devices, etc. That's another part of the challenge. But even the new education policy 2020 goes a step further in this aspect and also discusses about usage of mass mediums like television and radio in order to ensure that places where there's challenge in terms of internet bandwidth or devices, that can be taken care of. So undoubtedly, the fact that you deliberated on audiovisual content and its importance is something which is, very true. The need of the hour is centralized build-up of quality content, storage in clouds, and distribution through mass channels, so that students can genuinely benefit. And when I'm saying students, I mean students at each layer of the socio-economic pyramid. The last man on the ground has to benefit from it. Thank you, sir. Thank you for your deliberation. Hemlata, ma'am, thank you so much. I think I was listening very carefully. I think you made some very important points, starting from raising a gamut of issues, social, emotional issues, and also the fact that you spoke about partnership between parents and educators, which is so important. That entire educational triangle that we discuss about parents, students, and educators. So undoubtedly, parents and educators being able to collaborate really makes a student's life much more easier if they can actually share their thoughts, as I think you give a very relevant example with regard to a child's behavior, both at home as well as at school. And I completely agree with you when you mentioned that the fact is that life is not always what we expect. So the fact is managing emotion is really important in today's age. So I think we really had a great discussion. I thank our esteemed panelists for their time, and I also thank members of the esteemed audience for their time here today evening. Thank you, take care, and goodbye.
Thank you, Achin.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.